In this video, I want to talk a little bit about organization. I am going to show you kind of my process in making cards. First of all, I usually keep a bunch of cards that are partially made, and you've probably seen a video where I created these type of cards. Okay, these are the main papers that I had selected that I was trying to get rid of. On my desk, I have this crate, and it has a bunch of cards. These are a whole bunch of anniversary cards for this year. And this is, where I was busting scraps. And then I have some, oh good, I have some graduation cards because I got a bunch of graduations coming up. I haven't used them yet. Some cards I made with my own handwork. I have a video on that. And just a bunch of random cards. I have a video on that. I have a video on this. And you've seen that in a video. These are all cards. And I've got a video on that. And I have a video on that. I have a video on all these cards, okay? All these cards, what they are, is they're just a card that doesn't have any assigned purpose, like birthday, anniversary, whatever. Sometimes I stick a card in it, especially if it's a color. And I like to have my inside message on white. But a lot of times I keep the inside white because it's just nice to have the white there, and you use a lot less paper. A lot of these were made with the principle of using up my scraps. So that is kind of my main way. So I've chosen, I need to make 2 birthday cards, one for a friend and one for a family member. So I chose these 2 cards. They're similar in color and they have a blank inside. And so these are my quick way to make a card. So I pick from that box, and then I decide, okay, I need to decorate them. I need to have something on it. They are for a lady. So I look at my stamps and I find a stamp that I like. And so I chose this stamp because that's a very elegant flower. And I'm going to use this leaf. And I decided that I'm going to use, this came out of that set. And this also goes with that leaf. So I'm going to use these. Okay, now, you notice that these are little square pieces. And of course, a cat has to get into my video. Let me set this aside because I want to show you something. Also, on my desk, I have this little caddy. I have a video on how to make that caddy. And this is where I put all my scraps. I kind of square them off. They're not exactly square. Rectangle. These are the really big pieces, the little squarish ones, the smaller scraps. And you can see there's a lot of random pieces, random sizes. So I kind of square off my scraps after I've done, use the paper, and I don't want to just throw it away. This is the first place I go when I just need a little bit of paper. Like here, I wanted the flowers on white because I'm doing it on a very colorful background. I plan to color the flowers, and I wanted to have the leaves of color. And I like to vary my leaves. So I'm going to use 2 different colors. For this, I used a darker green, evening evergreen, because this is a green already, so I wanted a darker green. I did not want to stamp it in black, but the flowers, I decided to stamp it in black. I like to use a waterproof ink when I stamp black. That way, if I decide to paint it with watercolor, it's an option. And this one, I just thought it'll be nice to have a little arrangement with the flower, couple of leaves, and just something a little bit different. And I thought this green would look nice on there. And so these all came from my scraps. These were made from scraps, and I have a video about that. It's a card scrap busting, I think, with strips, 1-inch strips. And I have a video that shows that process. So I'm going to use these to make a little arrangement. And this way, every time I make cards, I'm always using up my scraps. Now I'm going to use my die cut to cut these leaves out. I know I'm doing 2 cards. Since I have this strip, I'm just gonna, I may not use all those leaves, but I just decided, let's just use it up. Okay, as close as I can, because I could use that for other type of leaves. Oops, this shifted. Sometimes it happens with a magnetic thing. I don't know how many I'm going to need, but I know that I only need 2. So put that aside. And this shifted on me. I hate that when it happens. I was focused on the other. Okay, let's grab this. That one's a dud. So I use a combination of color pencil and markers. Because sometimes the markers, they color too dark. And I like to have softer colors. I wanted the flowers to have sort of a pinkish tone. And now I'm just going to fill these in to color these leaves before I cut them out. And notice that I printed 2 on the same card. That way I'm using up this little scrap. Every time I make a card now, I always reach for my scraps because I don't want the scraps to pile up. And I used to have a bin full of, I think I had 3 bins full of scraps. But after I got my system organized, it's working very well for me. And I'm not adding to my pile. I'm using up my scraps. I did not have a die cut for this, so I'm going to have to fussy cut this out with my scissors. I'll do that and I'll come back and show you how I put together the cards. All right, so I have my pieces. Let's work on designing the cards. Now, this flower is lovely, but see how small it looks on there? That's why it needs something else. So I have to decide, do I want the card to open this way or this way? And it may depend on how it seems to, this has got a lot of dark colors. It may depend on how I arrange the colors. I always think about contrast. Like if I put this green leaf here, it'll get lost. Might not even need it there. I think I do want to put it on this long stripes. I think that looks good. So, right, this one. So it can only go either this way or that way. Let me see. Kind of like that. We got those leaves there. We may not need those. Okay, and I still have room to put a sentiment. I just kind of play with it until I like it. I could put a sentiment here. I could put a sentiment there. So I'm going to get those glued on and then we'll make a sentiment. When I put something that's got a lot of details, I like to use this little, I forgot what this thing is called, but anyways, it's useful to have. I glued on those, and I think I want this to be raised up, so I'm going to use some dimensionals to raise it up a little bit for a little extra dimension. I think I need to pull out my smaller ones. We use these little ones, these tinier pieces. This flower is printed on typing paper or computer paper. Actually, I always recycle all my scraps to everything. And I didn't want to use cardstock. Okay, I put these away. Okay, now as I look at sentiments, I have a lot of these that are already pre-cut out. And like, see, that could fit there. That could go there. Or I could do something smaller, like that. These were just when I was using up scraps. That could work. So I've got options. So I just have to decide. Actually, I need to decide what I want to say. So I have a few cut out, and these were also cut from scraps. So that's one place that I look, a little basket where I keep just things that are cut out. Another option is I have a basket where I keep small strips, like if I just have a little thing. And sometimes, like, it's a whole lot easier to stamp on this than it is to stamp on that, because it's better to stamp first and then cut. But that could be, so I've got all these little strips, you know, these are the shorter strips for, would be skinny sentiments. And sometimes if I want a little bigger sentiment, I have this box I picked up at the dollar store. All of these containers came from the dollar store. And these are just a little wider, so that if I need a little bigger sentiment, I will grab from this box. So I can have a box where I keep the wider ones. And these are the narrow ones. And then these are some that are already cut out. Okay, on the theme of organization, I have a notebook. And I have, these are all my birthdays. Birthdays. And these are cards I'm making our birthdays. So these are all, I stamped, you know, a lot of, when I get a new stamp, I will put on a page and stick it in my book. This is friendship, thank yous, just a note, you're special, you're awesome, the idea of love and romance, weddings or brides, anniversary, inspirational, encouragement, congratulations, today is the day for whatever purpose, well wishes, sympathy, scripture verses, Christmas, all the Christmas stuff. So I look through my book and I pick out what sentiment do I want on the cards that I am making. What do I want it to say? You know, this could fit there. Oh yes, that reminds me of something else. I also have this that I made where I kind of put and like, see it, I could see that, oh, that won't fit on there. But if I wanted to cut the U, if I wanted the U on there, but I couldn't use that. So that's why I'd use a marker. But this will also help me to figure out what sentiment will fit what cutout. So that's another tool that I made myself. I wish this was a ring, but I didn't have a ring. It'd be easier if it was a ring. Oh yes, I also wrote with white. Like this came from So Sentimental. This came from So Sentimental set. Wild Rose. So I did not all, but most of my cutouts and noted what they are. So I can pick out what cut that I want to put my sentiment on once I've decided what my sentiment is. Like, see, that could fit there. Happy birthday wishes. That could fit. So those are the things I keep in mind. Oh, here's my little kitty. My little girlfriend who likes to join me in all my crafting projects. She's always interested in whatever it is I'm doing. And her bed is right there. That's her special bed, but right now she just wants to be close to me. So I've decided that I want to go with this, wishing you a happy birthday, because it'll fit on here very nicely. Next I go to my shelf. Everything is alphabetized, so A, B, band together. So that's gonna have the stamp that I want to use. So I put my stamp on there. And now I just need to choose my color. And since there's a lot of purples in the card, I think I'm going to go with a dark purple, like Blackberry Bliss. And my cat is curious. Let's stay away from the ink, shall we? Okay, that one's on slightly crooked. It's always harder to do things when you're doing it on camera because you have to reach around stuff. Okay, so I'm ready to put my sentiment on. Cat, you're lying on the other card. And I think I'll do this one right there. And that will be our card. And then I just have to decide on the message that goes inside the card. Now she's over here, getting in the way. She's my little friend. I think my ink pad's getting old. Cat, what have you done? So I chose two different messages because, well, this little poem fit the person that I was sending it to. Is a young girl who looked up to me, admired me many years ago when I was just a teenager. And we've kept in touch through the years, and I just wanted her to know that I'm thinking about her. So I really like this poem. It says, somewhere, can you guess, someone's heart beats true, while down through the years, through smiles and fears, someone thinks of you. And so that will mean something to her. So this way, when I make a card, I personalize it to the person that I'm making it. So I don't have all the cards ready ahead of time, because a lot of times the cards that I have completely done ahead of time, I wind up never using. So it's better to just keep the random cards unfinished, and they're just kind of starter. I call them starter cards in my basket. And that way I just can pull from that, and sometimes, you know, they just happen to fit a perfect situation in a moment. And this is very quick and easy to do. My method is about saving time and saving my scraps, which means saving money. As you know, cards are everything's going up in price. You know, you can't go get a fast food meal without spending at least $7. Cards are about $7. So I do spend money on papers and things, so I want to make the most of them and stretch them as much as I can and get the maximum amount of cards out of it. And so this is my method, and my method of controlling and managing my scraps. That way I wind up using right down to the last little bit. Speaking of which, okay, this is the only scrap that I have left over. That green strip, I have these. I didn't use those. I'll show you what I'll do with that. This is what I do with the little scraps. The leaf I made that I didn't use, I'll find a slot in here and put it in there. And what I'm going to do with this is I will pull out my leaf. I will pull out, these are all my little flowers. I have some leaves, so I can take all these out, and those are lips. And I can cut out some leaves. I take those out, and I will arrange these on here to see how many I can get, so I can use up this little piece so that I have nothing left over. Thank you, cat. Your tail. Now you're seeing my mess. Sorry. And this is how I exhaust my little scraps. So every time I make cards now, I can honestly boast that I do not add any more scraps to my scrap pile, because I turn everything into something useful. These little leaves, there are many times where I will just go to my box and put out random little leaves to add to various cards. So they're already pre-cut. I can still get a few more, and I'll do that until this piece is totally used up, and then I throw it in the trash. This is what I got from that leftover piece, and that's what's left to it. So this goes into the trash, and I will be able to put these somewhere in here. I always like to have a variety of leaves. I have them categorized by size pretty much. There. We have no scraps left over. I mean, all the scraps are being recycled. And I have 2 new cards that can go out in the mail tomorrow. This has saved me time and supplies. It's all about making the job easier, because I have a very busy schedule and I have always so much going on at once. So anything that makes it easier. Even still, I sometimes fail and I miss a birthday because I just am so busy I cannot get it all done. I try.